The Twins take on the Tigers, 2:10 p.m. Eastern first pitch. The Minnesota Twins are minus 120, totals 9. And if you like Detroit in an upset on their home field, they're plus $1 for some money line cash. Casey Mize is starting for the Tigers, Bailey Ober for the Twins. And following another pretty rough day on my BrockPage.com website yesterday, we still did manage to improve to 3-0 in our last 3 extra daily picks on that webpage. And if you want to access today's extra daily pick, it's only going to cost you just $2.99. We're also 10-2 in our last dozen Major League Baseball tier package picks on that very same website. And the good news is we have another Major League Baseball tier package pick going off here this evening. We currently have over 850 members who are signed up and active on my webpage. And if you want to see which one of these YouTube picks I'm actually betting on personally, link for that site is in the description section below. That's BrockPage.com. Now, Minnesota's Bailey Ober, he's got just one win thus far in the season. He's got a 4.06 ERA and a 1.24 whip. The last place Twins are 16 games below 500. And they find themselves winning just 39% of their road games. This Minnesota pitching staff is in the bottom 3 in runs allowed. Now they're taking on a Tigers team who won 4 out of their last 8 themselves. And they still have a winning home record at Comerica Park. They also have Casey Mize on the bump here today, who's 7-6 with a 3.55 ERA and a 1.16 whip. Now the righties also fanned 100 batters thus far in the year. When it comes to the total on this one, Detroit's gone 32-30 to the over in their divisional contest this season. Minnesota's 22-9 to the over in their divisional games on the road. I'm going to lean toward the Detroit Tigers plus $1 in the over 9 runs. Next contest, Cardinals versus the Reds, 6:40 p.m. East. The Cincinnati Reds are minus 185, totals 9.5. Luis Castillo for the Reds, Big John Lester for St. Louis. Despite Lester's struggles here recently with the Cardinals, St. Louis has won 4 out of their last 7 ball games, and they're currently 35-29 against the number when they travel. The St. Louis lineup is in the top 10 in fewest strikeouts at the plate. Nolan Arenado's hit 26 homers and knocked in 84. Meanwhile, Paul Goldschmidt is batting .285 with 21 homers and 77 RBI. Now they're taking on a Cincy club who lost 4 out of their last 6 ball games themselves. And they're also cashing in on the run line in just 40% of their home games. The Cincy lineup is averaging nearly double-digit home strikeouts a game at the plate. Meanwhile, the Cincinnati pitching staff walks more batters per game than any other team in the majors. Luis Castillo's walked 62 batters already on the season himself. He's just 7-13 on the year with a 4.29 ERA and a 1.38 whip. The Reds are currently in the bottom 5 in runs allowed per contest at home. When it comes to the number in this one, Cincinnati's 20-11 to the over in their divisional home games. Meanwhile, the Cardinals have gone 14-10 to the over in their divisional contests on the road. I'm going to lean toward the St. Louis Cardinals plus 1.5 and the over 9.5 runs. Next contest, Phillies versus the Nationals, 7:05 Eastern start time. Philadelphia's minus 175, totals 8.5. Zach Wheeler for the Titans, Josiah Gray for Washington. Despite just 28 innings of work under his belt, Josiah Gray's got a solid 2.89 ERA and a 1.11 whip. Now the righty's also averaging over a strikeout an inning. This Washington pitching staff is in the top 10 in the league in fewest home walks allowed. Meanwhile, offensively, Washington is in the top 5 in hits per contest at the plate. Josh Bell's hit 23 home runs thus far in the season. Juan Soto's hit 22 home runs himself. Now these pesky Nationals hitters, they've been striking out only 7.3 times a game on their home field. That's amongst the league leaders in that particular category. Now they're taking on a Phillies club who wins only 42% of their contests on the road. This Philadelphia lineup is in the bottom 10 in hits on average per game. Meanwhile, pitching-wise, they're also in the bottom 10 in hits allowed per game when traveling. And as dominant as Zach Wheeler's been in many different starts this season, the righty's got 9 losses thus far in the year. Now, when it comes to the scoring in this one, 6 out of Philly's last 10 ball games got over the line. Meanwhile, the Nationals went 60% to the over in their last 10 outings themselves. I'm going to go ahead and lean toward the Washington Nationals plus 1.5 in the over 8.5 runs. Next ball game, Orioles versus the Blue Jays, 7:07 Eastern Standard Time. The Toronto Blue Jays are minus 295, totals 9.5. Robbie Ray for Toronto, Chris Ellis for Baltimore. Now, Ellis has just 4 innings of work under his belt for the last place O's. Baltimore currently has the worst record in Major League Baseball, and they find themselves 49 games below 500. The Orioles allow more hits per contest than any other team in baseball. They're taking on a Toronto club who averages over 9.1 hits a game at home. Vlad Guerrero's hit 36 home runs and knocked in 91. The Slugger's also third in the majors with a 994 OPS. Meanwhile, Marcus Semion's hit 32 home runs himself, along with 77 ribbies. This Toronto lineup is in the top 3 in the majors in hits on average per game. They also have Robbie Ray on the mound here tonight. He's 9-5 with a 2.72 ERA and a 1.02 WHIP. The lefty struck out 192 batters thus far in the season. And total-wise, Toronto's 15-11 to the over in their divisional ball games at home. Meanwhile, the O's have gone 33-21 to the over against the AL East themselves. I'm going to lean toward the Toronto Blue Jays minus 1.5 and the over 9.5 runs. Next contest, Red Sox versus the Rays, 7:10 p.m. East. The Tampa Bay Rays are minus 135, totals 8.5. Luis Patino for Tampa Bay, Nick Pivetta for Boston. Now Pivetta comes into today's contest with a 4.57 ERA and a 1.31 WHIP. The Bo Sox are in the bottom 5 in the majors in hits allowed per game. They're taking on a first-place Rays club who has the most wins in the American League. This Tampa Bay lineup is what are they? This Tampa Bay lineup, they're in the top 3 in scoring on average per game. Brandon Lau's hit 30 home runs and knocked in 76. The second baseman is currently 10th in the big leagues in that home run category. Meanwhile, Austin Meadows is 4th in the majors with 91 RBI himself. Meanwhile, pitching-wise, the Rays allow fewer runs at home than any other team in the majors. Luis Patino struck out 53 batters in just over 51 innings of work. The Rays are holding their opponents to only 3.2 runs a game at Tropicana Field. Now, total-wise, the Rays are 30-27 to the under against the American League at home. Meanwhile, Boston has gone 37-28 to the under in their road games this year. I'm going to lean toward the Tampa Bay Rays minus 135 and the under 8.5. Next contest, it is going to be Rockies versus the Rangers. Should be a slugfest. 8:05 East. The Colorado Rockies are minus 155, numbers 8.5. German Marquez for Colorado. AJ Alexy for Texas. Now, Alexi's making his debut for Texas here tonight. That mind, though, he's going up against a Colorado team who wins just 26% of their road games. As a matter of fact, the Rockies have the fewest road wins in the National League. The Rockies are dead last in the majors in hits per contest on the road. They're also scoring just 3.1 runs a game when they travel. They're taking on a Texas club who's in the top 10 in fewest walks allowed at home. Meanwhile, offensively, the Rangers are striking out just 8.1 times a game at Globe Life Field. Adolis Garcia's hit 29 home runs and knocked in 77. The outfielder's actually 12th in the majors in that home run category. Meanwhile, Nate Lowe's got himself 59 RBI on the season as well. And scoring-wise, Texas went 60% to the under in their interleague contest thus far in the year. Meanwhile, Colorado's gone 73-57 to the under overall for the season themselves. I'm going to lean toward the Texas Rangers plus 1.5 and the under 8.5 runs. Next ball game, Yankees, Angels, 9:38 Eastern Standard Time. The New York Yankees are minus 150, totals 8.5. Corey Kluber for New York, Jose Quintana possible for Los Angeles. Now Quintana's 0-3 with a 6.75 ERA and a 1.78 WHIP. The Angels have lost 6 out of their last 8 ball games, and they walk more batters at home than any other team in the majors. This Angels pitching staff is also in the bottom 5 in runs allowed. They're taking on a Yankees squad who leads the majors in offensive walks at the plate. Shohei Ohtani's 4th in the majors in OPS. The Slugger's got an OPS of 986, and he's also hit a league-leading 41 home runs. Meanwhile, pitching-wise, wait, what are we doing here? Why are we ripping off the stats for the Angels here? I'm a little bit confused here. What's going on here? All right. I don't know who wrote today's script, but I don't know why we're going through Shohei Ohtani's. With all those factors in mind, I wouldn't worry about Shohei because the Yankees are holding their opponents to just 7.3 hits a game. Corey Kluber comes into today's contest with a 3.04 ERA and a 1.20 WHIP. When it comes to the total in this one, Los Angeles went 60% to the over in their last 10 ball games. Yankees 6-4 to the over in their last 10 themselves. Man, that was a cluster. I'm going to lean toward the New York Yankees minus 150, despite how good Shohei is, and the over 8.5. That was a mess, guys. Anyway, next game, Padres, D-backs, 9:40 p.m. Eastern start time. The San Diego Padres are minus 170, totals 9. Chris Paddock for San Diego, Tyler Gilbert for Arizona. Now, Gilbert's got a 2.38 ERA and a 1.01 WHIP. The D-backs have cashed in on the run line in 5 out of their last 10 ball games, 15-14 against the number in their divisional home games as well. Arizona's currently in the top 10 in the majors in hits on average per game at home. Josh Rojas is batting .273 with an OPS of 797. They're taking on a Padres club who lost 8 out of their last 10 themselves, and they cashed in on the run line in 9 out of 22 divisional road games. And speaking of divisional play, the Padres have a losing record against the NL West. Chris Paddock comes into today's contest with a 5.13 ERA and a 1.32 WHIP. When it comes to the total in this one, San Diego's 12-10 to the over in their divisional road games. Meanwhile, the D-backs went 18-11 to the over against the NL West at Chase Field. I'm going to lean toward the Arizona Diamondbacks plus 1.5 and the over 9 runs. Next ball game, Brewers, Giants, 9:45 Eastern first pitch. The Milwaukee Brewers are minus 145, total 7.5. Corbin Burns for Milwaukee, Johnny Cueto for San Francisco. Now, Cueto struck out 94 batters and has a 3.73 ERA. The first place Giants have the best record in Major League Baseball, and they lead the majors in fewest walks allowed per 9. They're holding their opponents to just 3.6 runs a game. They're taking on a Brewers club who lost 3 out of their last 4 themselves and ranks in the bottom 10 in hits on average per game. This Milwaukee lineup averages nearly double-digit strikeouts per contest at the plate when they travel. And total-wise, 8 out of Milwaukee's last 10 meetings with San Francisco got over the line. Meanwhile, the Giants are 28-23 to the over against National League opponents at Oracle Park. I'm going to lean toward the San Francisco Giants plus 1.5 and the over 7.5 runs. Next outing, it is going to be Braves versus the Dodgers, 10:10 p.m. East. The LA Dodgers are minus 190, totals 8.5. Julio Urias for Los Angeles, Drew Smyly for Atlanta. Smyly comes into today's contest with a 4.54 ERA and a 1.36 WHIP. The Atlanta Braves lost 3 out of their last 5 ball games, and they're in the bottom half of the league in road walks allowed. Meanwhile, offensively, these guys are averaging nearly double-digit strikeouts a game at the plate. They're taking on a Dodgers club who won 7 out of their last 10. They strike out more batters per contest than any other team in the Bigs. This LA pitching staff allows only 3.4 runs per contest, and they hold their opponents to under 6.8 hits a game. Julio Urias is 14-3 thus far in the season, 3.17 ERA and a 1.05 WHIP. Now the lefties also fanned 153 batters. Now total-wise, 9 out of LA's last 10 ball games did stay under the line. 6-1 to the under in their last 7 at Dodger Stadium. Meanwhile, the Braves went 80% to the under in their last 10 outings themselves. I'm going to lean toward the LA Dodgers -1.5 and the under 8.5 runs. And with that, guys, we're going to jump into our next and final matchup. It is going to be Astros versus the Mariners, 10:10 p.m. Eastern start time. The Houston Astros are -155, totals 8.5. Luis Garcia for Houston, Chris Flexen for Seattle. But as good as Flexen's been this year, the Mariners have lost 3 out of their last 4 ball games, and they rank dead last in the bigs in hits on average per contest. The Mariners currently averaging just 6.7 hits a game at T-Mobile Park. They're also in the bottom 5 in the league in home scoring. They're taking on a first-place Houston club who's leading the league in runs and hits. Michael Brantley's batting .317 for the Astros. Meanwhile, Yordan Alvarez has hit 28 home runs and knocked in 88. Now, pitching-wise, Luis Garcia, he's 10-6 with a .321 ERA and a 1.09 WHIP. The righties also struck out 144 batters. This Astros pitching staff allows only 3.9 runs a game for the entire season. And when it comes to the scoring in this one, 3 out of Houston's last 4 road games stayed under the line. Meanwhile, the Mariners are 37-29 to the under on their home field. I'm going to lean toward the Houston Astros -155 and the under 8.5 runs. And with that, guys, now it's time for our quick pick recap. Powered to you by my website at brockpage.com, where we are 3-0 in our last 3 extra daily picks on that very same website. I like Detroit +$1 over 9 runs. St. Louis +1.5 over 9.5. Washington +1.5 over 8.5 runs. Toronto -1.5 over 9.5. Tampa Bay -135 under 8.5. Texas +1.5 under 8.5. New York Yankees -150 over 8.5 runs. Arizona +1.5 over 9. San Francisco +1.5 over 7.5. Los Angeles Dodgers -1.5 under 8.5 runs. Before I give you my next and final free pick for the video, one final reminder that we are 3-0 in our last 3 extra daily picks on my brockpage.com website. We're also 10-2 in our last dozen Major League Baseball tier package picks on that very same webpage. I'm going to lean toward the Houston Astros -155 and the under 8.5 runs. And with that, guys, now it's time for our shout-out of the day. And that goes to Thomas Reason, who said yesterday, "Let's go Brock the man." And I certainly appreciate the comment there, Tommy. And let's go ahead and get it today. Let's get some wins and let's make some money. All right, guys, that's going to do it for me. Don't forget to check me out on my website at brockpage.com. Now, keep in mind, guys, if you end up getting a membership here today, you're going to get billed the day you sign up and then the first of every month following that. So if you do end up getting a membership here today, you're going to get access to that content through the end of August, and then you're going to get billed again on September 1st. So I always tell folks the earlier in the month you sign up, the better. Unless it's like a really small package, you may want to wait until September 1st. But if you feel like, hey, Brock's hot right now and I can't wait, you're certainly more than welcome to sign up. But as I always say in every video, you're going to get billed the day you sign up and then the first of every month following that. It's just the way the billing cycle works. And like I said, the earlier in the month you sign up, the better. But most importantly, guys, gotta thank you for joining me right here on YouTube. I really hope you enjoyed all this great free content, all this great free information. And with that said, guys, happy Monday to you. Best of luck to you. And I look forward to seeing you later on today on my website at brockpage.com.